Wow, this is very exciting. I'm Dianne. I am the president and CEO of the Community Foundation, and I just want to say how excited my team is to be able to have our kickoff inaugural event this season with our great team Partnering for Good. We call this series Partnering for Good because that's really what your community foundation is doing. We partner with you for the good of our community, for the good of your clients, and for the good of those individuals who get the benefit of the philanthropy that is attracted and facilitated through our organizations. So we're here today to continue this series that was conceived by several of you that are among us today, to help us help you convey to your clients how they can amplify their philanthropy to make an impact in our community. And you may be thinking, the Community Foundation, what do we bring to the table? We bring our knowledge of the issues, and there are many issues that plague our community, whether it's access to education, mental health for underserved and underprivileged, whether it's the literacy rate. We know what the issues are in our community. And we also have a great understanding of the nonprofit partners, we call them our partners, who are on the front lines every single day addressing these issues. And all they need to move the needle in this area is philanthropy, money to make a difference. So our power, we believe, is our knowledge and our know-how. And we stand ready to help you, help your clients get closer to the causes that they care most about. So we're here to help you increase your own skills with your clients when it comes to ensuring that their giving is making a real difference. So before we get started, I want to welcome and acknowledge some important people in the room this morning, starting with Ambassador Nancy Brinker.
I don't think she's here.
She's not here yet. Let me just say the traffic is terrible. It is. I left a long time ago and I sat on 95 and then snaked my way over to Old Dixie. Okay, so when the ambassador arrives, we'll make sure that you all know who she is. I also want to give a special thank you to the sponsors who actually helped conceive of this programming and actually helped make this event happen. Tandy Robinson with Goldman Sachs. I haven't seen Tandy. She comes from where I come from, so she's probably on 95. Lisa Schneider with Gunster. Lisa, will you stand up and say hi, or so people can acknowledge you? April Hicks, I see April. She's from Martin County with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. John Lacey with Merrill Lynch. Did I see John?
He's not here. I am his partner, but I will.
Okay, tell John we gave a big shout out for him. Chris and Amy La Squadro, did I pronounce that correctly? Stand up, say hi. Thank you. Rebecca Doan. Is Rebecca here? She's on 95. And then to my left, Julie and Peter Cummings. Thank you so much. I also want to just take a quick moment to thank the Women Leading for Good committee. This is the committee that worked with Mary Catherine Morales, our Vice President of Philanthropic Services, to actually develop the idea to create this series of programming that helps you all do what you do. Many of these women are also a part of our Community Foundation's own network of professional advisor ambassadors. We call it the Philanthropic Advisory Council, and that's probably the one consistent name across all community foundations in the country. We all have a pack. We have a couple of new council members that are with us this year. Renee Paez. Renee, where are you? Hi, Renee. Good to see you again. And Althea Caesar. Welcome to the team. Where's Althea? Oh, there she is. I was going to say, you're on 95 too. And we want to thank our Professional Advisory Council for helping us to expand our impact alongside their clients and their peers, and for encouraging many of you to join us this morning. I also want to congratulate one of today's sponsors, who also happens to be one of our most dedicated volunteers. That's Lisa Schneider. Lisa was recently appointed as the inaugural chair of our Philanthropic Advisory Council. Lisa, thank you for saying yes to the charge. We are looking forward to partnering with you in this new capacity. And finally, I just want to acknowledge a good friend, a dear colleague, someone with whom I've worked for 7 years, and that's Mary Catherine Morales. MK, stand up, please. MK is our Vice President for Philanthropic Services. She works closely with many of you, and you will hear more from her and her team at the end of this program. But now it's time to get this started. It is my honor and my privilege to introduce you to the immediate past chair of the Community Foundation for Palm Beach and Martin Counties, and that is Julie Fisher Cummings. Many of you may know Julie, but I do have to, I do have to share just a little bit. I got it. She is an amazing mentor and friend and philanthropist who has served this community and has sustained her family's legacy of giving. And how lucky was I to be appointed in this role 2+ years ago and have Julie as my boss.
Thank you.
She taught me a lot about philanthropy. She taught me a lot about community foundations. And there's a whole list of things that I could read.
No.
But while I was sitting, listen, while I was sitting on 95, she said, please don't say all those things. So I'm not. But I'm going to ask you to give a warm welcome to a visionary leader, a compassionate advocate, and a strategic partner in all of our efforts in giving for good. Julie Fisher Cummings.
Thank you, Danita. It's so wonderful to see so many of you here today. And Danita, I feel the same about you. I was so fortunate. I didn't expect that we were going to have a new CEO, but I am so excited of this path that we've been walking together, and now Jeff Stoops will be taking over that role. So I'm really excited. We're so excited to have so many wealth advisors, CPAs, estate attorneys, who work as professional advisors. You're so critically important to our work and to your work. Did you know that by 2025, women will have control of $110 trillion in assets and are positioned to inherit 70% of the wealth due to be passed down over the next 2 generations? Think about that. That just gives me chills. And that makes your role particularly important. As such, we endeavor to be your premier partner in our area to help connect you and your client to the organizations and charitable vehicles that can help our whole region thrive. We know that our success depends on our ability to communicate confidently to your clients about our area's greatest needs and the most effective ways to address them. That's why we are so happy and privileged to have Jeannie Infante Sager and Dianne Chips Bailey, 2 very good friends of mine, from the Women's Philanthropy Institute at the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University, here with us this morning. WPI is the only academic research institute that focuses on gender-specific issues for both the donor and those working in the field. Today's discussion is all about women in philanthropy and the important role that you will play for your clients in ensuring that they fulfill their philanthropic passions. Together, Jeannie and Dianne will dive into the research and provide insight into the power and potential of women philanthropists, hence illustrating the importance of translating research into practical applications. Jeannie is the director of the Women's Philanthropy Institute. She leads their efforts to translate that research into practice. She works closely with the National Advisory Council, which I have the privilege of sitting on, and she serves as the executive leadership team for the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. She also is an associate professor, if that's not enough, and teaches with the fundraising school there. Dianne is a council chair of the Women's Philanthropy Institute. She is amazing. also. She's the managing director and national philanthropic strategy executive for philanthropic solutions at Bank of America. And that does not even begin to tell what she really does. She's one of the most compassionate and generous and brilliant people I know. Her team advises individuals and families on their charitable giving strategies, as well as nonprofit endowment, investment management clients with strategic visioning, mission advancement, risk management, governance, and board dynamics. I had to read that because please join me in welcoming these two incredible women.
Furniture. Yeah. Are we gonna try that? Well, we feel like we need to be closer to you.
We feel like you can't see us.
Closer? Uh-oh, they're heavy. They're heavy. Okay, why don't we just scoot our chairs out?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, even better. Thank you. See, that way we can see this side of the room. Thank you, Dianne. All right. We're gonna do that. Oh, we're gonna. It's like, I feel like a wedding singer. All right. We promise we won't sing, I promise.
Oh, no, you don't want that.
No, we don't. No.
No, we're just going to chitty-chit-chat.
That's right.
Like
That's
we always
right.
do.
Good morning,
Hi,
everyone.
good morning. Good morning.
You made it.
You're not on 95.
You're not on 95.
You're not on 95.
Winning.
You're not on 95. Jeannie and I are thrilled to be here. Thank you so much, Julie, for the invitation, and Danita for the wonderful welcome here at the Community Foundation. There is nothing that Jeannie and I like to talk more about than activating women's leadership in philanthropy. So we're going to dive right in. So Jeannie, why don't you
Dianne.
why don't you give a little history lesson about the Women's Philanthropy Institute, WPI? How to get started?
Well, as a teacher, I'm going to ask a question of the folks. How many of you have heard of the Women's Philanthropy Institute before coming today? Oh, that makes me happy. And then the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. Is anybody familiar with that? Oh, fabulous. Okay, you guys are pros at this. So a little bit about WPI. We are, as Julie mentioned, we're the only research institute in the world dedicated to the study of gender and philanthropy. And in 2024, we will celebrate 20 years with our partnership at the Lilly School of Philanthropy, which is, by the way, the only school of philanthropy in the world. So really thrilled to be there, really thrilled to have access to just amazing data resources because our mission at WPI is to conduct, curate, and disseminate rigorous research around how women and men give, and more importantly, as Dianne mentioned, how to activate and inspire women to give more strategically, and give more intentionally. So that's who we are, and really thrilled to be here. I'll give you the headline, which is simply this. We have over 200 data points that demonstrate that gender does matter in philanthropy. And so, and we always like to say at WPI that research is just the beginning. It's what you do with it that matters. We are not a typical, simply an academy that disseminates and conducts the research. We want to make sure that it is relevant and useful to the work that all of you in this room do.
All right, so we're not going to make you wait. What do we know about women as philanthropists? Top 3 things.
I like to, I do like to keep things in threes. That's helpful for everybody. So I want to address 3 things first that are what I consider myths about women that I think our industry and certainly the nonprofit sector seem to continue to promote about women. And these 3 things are that women aren't philanthropic, that women defer giving decisions, and the last one is that women don't make big gifts. And what's wonderful is that all of the research at WPI really pushes against all of those things. So let's address the first one, that women aren't philanthropic. Across all races, incomes, and generations, women are more likely to give and more likely to give more than their male counterparts. And the evidence around single women is really compelling. So again, across all races, incomes, generations, single women are more likely to give than single men. They're more likely to volunteer. So it's true, in fact, it's true across the life cycle. More in retirement, more women volunteer than men. And so really, and then generation. We did a really interesting study that was able to compare baby boomers when they were in their youth, so when they were millennials and Gen X age, to current day Gen X and millennials. And we find that single women in particular are holding their own, while single men and married couples have actually decreased their giving over time. Single women have stayed the course. I mean, we also know that women in particular just see wealth differently. There was a U.S. trust study that was done that shares...
Bank of America Private Bank.
Yeah.
Bank of America Private Bank.
Yeah. Can we really keep up with the name changes?
We don't have to
Everybody in
keep
the
up
room, can
because it's
we
the Bank of
keep up
America
with-
Private Bank.
And when it was the U.S. Trust study back in the day, Bank of America, private bank, we found that the study that they did, that even how men and women think about wealth it is different, right? So women are more likely to say that the most satisfying aspect of having wealth is actually the opportunity to give it away and to be charitable. The second myth, women defer giving decisions. Okay, now we know, right? Is that
Give
true?
them the numbers.
Give them the numbers.
What percent of household decisions are made or influenced by a woman?
So when you combine, when you consider the fact that 6 out of 10 households, couples still make giving decisions, 6 out of 10. But there has been an increase. Our Women Give 2021 report that looked at household charitable giving decisions saw that there is actually an increase in single individual decision makers in the house. And so when a household has an individual single decider, it's more likely to be a woman. And so if you think about how women influence giving, so 6 out of 10 plus almost 15% of households where the woman is on lead, I mean, that's 75% of women are involved in the decision-making process at some point and some time.
And it gets even higher when you look at affluent women.
That's right.
So the Bank of America study of philanthropy that we do with the Lilly Family School looks at affluent donors, and we can talk more about that later. 85% of those households, the decision is either made by the woman or influenced by the woman.
That's correct. And so really thinking about how, who is at the table when you're having these conversations about gifts and about giving. And the last one is that women don't make big gifts. Well, we know that's just not true. And in fact, while women still prefer to be more anonymous in their giving, and mostly because they're just not motivated. They're not motivated by putting their name on a building. They're not motivated by tax advantages. But we have this new era of high-profile, ultra-net wealth women who are wanting to be out in front, and they're using philanthropy agents as agencies. So, I mean, we can all kind of think of the names, right? Mackenzie Scott, Melinda French Gates, but the ecosystem is becoming much more diverse. I mean, we've always heard about Oprah and her philanthropy, that we have Kwanzaa Jones now, we have Priscilla Chan, and they're out there really talking about how they are using philanthropy for systems change and to address the values and passions that they care about most. So women do make big gifts.
Yes, they do. So we've busted the myths, right? We know that women are leading in philanthropy, they're making decisions to make big gifts. What else do we know about women as philanthropists?
So a lot of our research can be grouped into 3 themes. So women give broadly, women give collectively, and women give holistically. So when we think about broadly, women are less likely to consider themselves philanthropists, because when they think about the word philanthropist, they immediately think of just money. So women are very drawn to a more expanded definition of philanthropy. So really thinking about, I like to put this in the T's. So we're all familiar with time, talent, treasure, right? So women like to volunteer. They like to serve on boards and use their leadership in that way. But then there's also testimony, which means women like to advocate for a cause. And then ties, which is a woman's social capital and their social network. And when you talk to a woman about being a philanthropist, are you a philanthropist? What they're really centered on is generosity. And if you can frame the conversation in that way, then they really start to embody and embrace this idea of being a philanthropist. But you have to have all things. And in particular, when I talk to fundraisers, I often say, to get that ultimate gift of treasure, that transformational gift, another T, I did it. Transformational gift, you will have needed to engage that woman in all the other T's first. And ties is a big piece of it. If we had more time, we could go into trust and transparency, but maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later. But there are a lot of T's in the way women give. Women give collectively. They like to give together. They love the idea, Deborah Johnson in the room.
Impact 100.
Impact 100.
Impact 100 in the house.
Yeah, and I won't be able to keep Dianne down on this. Her passion is giving circles. But women like to give together. And a lot of it is about the democracy of that. So giving circles is just one example. But the idea that they, one gift, one vote, the fact that they can make a gift of $1,000 and that turn into a $10,000 impact. But they like to do it together. So really, really interested in this idea of talking about their philanthropy with others, activating their philanthropy with others. And so when we think about how many strategies in all of the work that we do are focused individually, if we were to meet women where they are in terms of giving collectively, how much more money could we raise if we offered opportunities where women could come together and make a gift? And they're doing this in big ways. I mean, giving circles are a wonderful entree, but there are also giving circles that are activating $1 million commitments. Whether that's to a certain type of cause, like Women Moving Millions, which is a collective of women, over almost 900 strong now, who've committed $1 million at least to women's and girls' causes. There's the Maverick Collective, which focuses on reproductive health. Again, and that's a global collective, and again at that $1 million level. So really thinking through how can we tap into that desire, that innate interest in celebrating and being together. And then the last is that women give holistically. So the research shows that for women, empathy is what drives their philanthropy. For men, it's more about self-interest.
Sorry, guys.
And that's not
Sorry,
bad.
guys.
I always like to
Sorry.
say this. It's a mixed
Sorry.
audience. I always say, one is not better than the other. They're simply different. And so making sure you're understanding what that empathy means and how are you showing that in all of the materials that you are sharing with, in particular, a female client. And so it won't surprise all of you that women give holistically, that women are more likely to give to women and girls. And so I often say that women give from their head, their heart, and their hand. They really need to touch it, see it, feel it. But in that empathy piece, they really can put themselves in the shoes of those who may be less fortunate than they are. And they really see that bigger picture. They're just able to do it. The other piece about the collective and the holistic piece is that women are natural net weavers. So I think everybody in the room has heard about networking, right? For women, don't underestimate who they are talking to, right? So women are more likely to net weave for an organization or a cause that they care about, where the questions are less about what can you do for me, and where they're leading with what can I do for you, who can I introduce you to, and it's really powerful when you think about causes and how to, again, activate giving.
So appreciate that, Jeannie. And I just want to revisit that point about women being empathetic and men being self-interested. And it's not that men aren't empathetic.
No.
Of course they are. They care deeply about their communities. And it's not that women aren't strategic. To think about how they can leverage their networks to advance causes that they care about. And women business owners, how they can use philanthropy. We see this with Tory Burch. I look at other business owners I know in the room that have really used their desire to make their communities better to also leverage visibility and increase their brand.
And I feel like I need
recognition.
to mention this, but this has been for hundreds of years. So Madam C.J. Walker, if you've not read my colleague, Dr. Tyrone Freeman's book, The Gospel of Giving, she was doing that from the beginning, from when she was a washerwoman until she became the first millionaire. Not the first black female millionaire, the first female millionaire. And all along, she incorporated philanthropy into her business and how she viewed the world and existed in the world. So it predates.
Of course. Yes. All right, I want to come back to the wealth transfer. Julie already teed this up. Okay, $84 trillion. $84 trillion coming down the pike. $12 trillion already designated for charitable organizations. So
$5 billion annually.
So a many multiplier effect on the current sort of endowed state of nonprofit organizations, roughly 3, almost 4 times. Huge. And women are going to inherit 70%, as Julie said, often inheriting 2 times from their parents and a male partner, right? So we're going to see women's economic power and influence increase. What does that mean for women as philanthropists?
What it means is that we need to inspire and continue to give women the confidence to know that that they can give money away and that they have the power to, again, as I said earlier, use philanthropy as agency. So often, and this is going to change. So there's a piece around attitudes about wealth. So I'm sure some of you have a lot of clients who might come to the table where they had that guardianship attitude with regards to wealth. They either didn't earn it themselves, they inherited it, and so they're often always thinking about others when they're thinking about the causes that they're going to give to. Then there's the other attitude, which is this understanding that wealth is generative. So they have either earned the wealth on their own, and to your point, have all along considered philanthropy as part of that wealth generative life and perspective.
It's the greatest freedom of wealth.
Yes.
Right. Philanthropy is the greatest freedom of wealth, right?
Yeah.
To be able to just give it away.
Yeah. Yeah. So really understanding and tapping into that, which is why it is important to kind of think about what the research shows about how women give. So again, broadly, collectively, and holistically. So how does that shape the conversations that you're having with women who come from a starting point, right? They're already in that place of wanting to share that wealth. And we often talk at WPI about women and the need to have conversations around vision, values, and voice. And so what are we doing in this space, in this really treasured space as an advisor, and having these conversations with women in particular, who often come to the table with goals that inherently are considering either family, their children in particular, and their grandchildren, and their community when they're setting goals with regards to their wealth and their investments. And so how comfortable are we as advisors in having conversations about their deepest values? I think it's really interesting. I often say if philanthropic and wealth advisors aren't having those conversations, fundraisers are. And as you know, for many donors and women in particular, fundraisers are their philanthropic advisors. And in a lot of ways, they see those fundraisers as no different than their accountant, their attorney. They are the professionals in that space. So the more people who can get comfortable in that advisory role in talking about values, in particular for women, and helping them understand how to translate those values into a vision and provide voice for that, the more money we will activate for amazing missions in your community.
And obviously the deepening of those relationships.
Right.
I mean, values are a reflection of your personal hopes and dreams, right? And so you connect on a totally different level with your client when you're talking about their philanthropic aspirations. And the other thing I would say about that is we do like 3s, right? Broadly, collectively, holistically. But if we could get to 4, I would add joyfully.
I knew that was coming.
Joyfully. You knew it was coming. Joyfully, right? Joyfully. And so when you think about how people show up in the world, particularly in their relationship to money, it can cause a lot of angst. It can cause a lot of confusion and confliction. But when you talk about that act of generosity, that giving of all of your teas, including your treasure, it does create an endorphin effect. Like we've done research on how life satisfaction.
So we did a life satisfaction
Yes,
report.
yes.
So, and what we learned from the life satisfaction report is, simply put, men see most life satisfaction when they give, when they make a gift. For women and married couples, they see the highest life satisfaction when they can give more. So again, that joyfulness. So activating that is about celebrating and joy rising for women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as professional advisors and fundraisers, right, be empowered to have these conversations around big gifts with women, particularly women that you've engaged previously as volunteers.
Yes.
Right, that
absolutely.
connection between that intimacy of relationship that comes from volunteering as a gateway to really transformational giving is really important, important. Okay, let's talk about Mackenzie Scott. Gosh, Mackenzie Scott. She's
pretty dreamy.
I know. Okay, how amazing was it when we got that email from Mackenzie Scott's team?
Yes. So Dianne and I have the amazing privilege to serve on the Yield Giving Grants Review Committee. So really thrilled to be able to be part of that process and to see. So
for people who don't know, that's
Yes.
Mackenzie Scott's first open call. She's giving $250 million, $1 million grants
grants.
each into smaller organizations. Do you have a question or a comment?
I want to join in on the comment. We got that email, and our VP for Marketing and Community Engagement
Yay!
had a group of us to actually evaluate.
fabulous.
That's wonderful.
That is so great.
It starts tomorrow.
Yes, starts tomorrow.
Starts tomorrow.
Opens up tomorrow.
Yeah.
So over 600 proposals were received.
6,000.
6,000.
She meant 6,000.
She has to control my zeros. she's with Bank of America.
Yeah.
6,000.
Not U.S. Trust.
Private banking.
Sorry, I digress. Okay. So what does Mackenzie Scott tell us? How does she embody the research?
Well, think about all the T's, and then again, think about broadly, collectively, holistically. What I'd love to say about Mackenzie Scott is she's so transparent. Again, that other T, and is. Oh, you teed this up really nicely. Trust and transparency. That is Mackenzie Scott. So she really does embody the broadly, collectively, holistically, and she tells us about it. If you haven't ever had a chance to read her writings on the Medium website, blog post, she's telling you. She's inviting others to join with her. One of her very first Medium posts, she talks about the process of why she wanted to give this money away and at the scale that she's doing it.
$14 trillion in 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
And she's doing
$14
it. 14
trillion.
billion.
I mean, it's billion. Sorry. I'm the one with the zeros. Sorry. Billion. But it's
We
amazing.
really have to watch ourselves with the
I
zeros.
know.
We're a good
I
team.
know. I haven't even had any coffee.
I mean, but
Maybe
she,
that's the problem.
Yeah, no, and she did it. So for those of you who are familiar with the Giving Pledge, many ultra high net wealth folks have signed on for the Giving Pledge, but they've either put the money and it's sitting in a foundation or they're doling it out. Her very first year, she signed the Giving Pledge. Very first year, 1/3 of that $14 billion went out. And she's making more money than she's giving. So what I'd say about embodying it is that, again, she wants others to join with her and says that. She talks about the broad and the more expanded definition of philanthropy and wants to empower others and calls out all the different ways that you can give, because we all can't be a Mackenzie Scott, right? And she does it holistically. She is supporting women and girls, but she's also supporting organizations that align her political and philosophical beliefs. And she's doing it, in a very transparent and trustworthy way. Now, there have been many women, Julie's mother in particular as well, who've been doing this trust-based philanthropy for a very long time, and we haven't talked about it. But now we talk about it. Trusting those organizations and those who are on the front line to do the work and carry out the mission of the organization and the causes that you care about. No strings attached.
For those that aren't familiar with like the core principles of trust-based philanthropy, it is the commitment to give without restrictions, to give to organizations over multiple years, and to give big,
Yeah.
right? And it was, unlike Julie's mom, there were many philanthropists over time that really worried, would the organization have the institutional capacity to receive this big gift? Would my gift, this is kind of wonky, but there are lawyers in the room and accountants, would my gift tip the nonprofit into private foundation status?
Right.
Did any of those things ever happen? Like, how many times have you seen an organization get tipped? Exceedingly rare. But what we've learned from the research about what these organizations have done
Right.
with these grants, the first thing they did is invest in their teams.
That's right.
Right? The starvation cycle, they invested in their teams, paid them living wages, staffed appropriately, but they've also amplified their community impact while also investing for their long-term sustainability, right? They've created these endowments or quasi-endowments that will enable them to be flexible and nimble over time.
Do the work.
So again, trust-based philanthropy, because guess what? The nonprofits have shown us that they're the adults in the room that actually can be entrusted with these significant gifts.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about women and girls.
Okay.
Let's talk about women and girls. So Mackenzie Scott has gone big.
Yes.
Last year, in particular with the Dobbs decision coming out of the Supreme Court, we saw a lot of activation.
Yes.
But talk about how women and others approach giving to women and girls and what the opportunities might be.
Yeah, so we did a report that looked at high net wealth women in particular who support women's foundations, women's funds, and girls, women and girls. And what we found in that study is that for these women, they grew up understanding the desire to give back. They really value learning about a cause before giving to it. More importantly, they are interested in impact. They do care about return on investment, but they also understand the need to invest in systems change in particular when it comes to women and girls. And so as women kind of think about giving through what I call a gender lens, the wonderful thing about supporting women and girls is that every cause that you can think of, there is, will fall under that subsector. So if you want to give through a gender lens and support climate change, if you want to give through a gender lens and support health, that's, as you mentioned, reproductive health continues to be the top sector of what women in particular support when it comes to women and girls. But it's also in education. It's also in the arts. And what we know, and what Melinda French Gates talks about in her book, A Moment of Lift, when you invest in women and girls, whole communities are lifted. It's rarely just about a single cause or a single, it really is, the vision is just larger, broader, more inclusive.
So how are we doing with giving to women and girls? Are we familiar with the Women and Girls Index? Mark your calendars. The next one's coming out on October 11th.
October 11th.
How are we doing?
Well, let me just say this. So the foundation of our research at WPI has really looked at women as donors. But a more recent research that we've been doing is the ability to measure giving to women's and girls organizations in particular. So we developed the Women and Girls Index, which measures giving in the United States to organizations that primarily serve women and girls. So I'm burying the headline.
Give some examples.
So some examples. Girls Inc., Junior League, Impact 100,
Komen.
Pardon?
Komen,
yes. Girls' colleges and girls' schools. So the
Women's Giving Circles.
Women's Giving Circles. And before we did the Women and Girls Index, we didn't even have that definition. So 80% of organizations' program dollars need to go needs to be serving women and girls. So I'm really burying the headline now. Okay, so the headline is, we've been measuring this since 2019, and it continues to remain less than 2% of charitable giving in the United States goes to organizations that primarily serve women and girls.
All of those different kinds of organizations.
All those different kinds of organizations.
Only adds up to 1.9%.
Yeah, 1.9%.
I didn't say it. Somebody did. 1.9 is not fine, right? We can do better than that. So what are we doing?
So because our lovely audience and constituency that follows the WGI closely, we're getting pretty disheartened about this every year coming out, less than 2%. So last year we spearheaded Give to Women and Girls Day in conjunction with October 11th. And so we have some wonderful anchor partners, including Impact 100 Global, Pivotal Ventures, Women Moving Millions, United Nations Foundation, to really elevate and amplify that and activate more giving to women and girls organizations. And in particular, really taking a moment to a movement. We were really shocked to find out as we were putting this together that there isn't already a giving community focused on giving to women and girls causes. And so we've created all kinds of resources and tools for women's and girls organizations to use and promote Give to Women and Girls Day on October 11th, which is ahead of Giving Tuesday, so it's something that they can continue on through the year. But more importantly, for those of you in the room, the Women and Girls Index is a searchable database. And you can search by cause, you can search by region, city, and so as you're working with your clients who might be interested in giving through a gender lens, I invite you to visit that database and find organizations that match up with your clients' interests.
I have so many questions, but I bet you have some questions too. So as you're thinking about your questions, I'll give you another one.
Okay.
How about the importance of men as allies?
Oh, so important. Yes. So we did a report on social norms and found that it is really important for men in particular to see more men and women giving to women's and girls' causes, because then they will give more to women's and girls' causes. And so as we know, the work around issues like gender equity and reproductive health, it's going to take all of us, everybody in the room, to really make a change and move that 1.9% number. But absolutely need men as allies in this space and helping us do the work, and we have the data to prove it.
And we, not only do we need them to participate, but we need both women and men, when they give to women and girls, to give big to women and
Yes.
girls. Because if you look again at the Bank of America study of philanthropy, I mean, that shows us that, between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 men and women give to women and girls. Every year they make a gift. So, between 20 and 25% are giving, and yet the aggregate amount only adds up to proportionately less than 2%.
Yeah.
And so
$9 billion. And last year, my partners, our partners at the Lilly School who produced Giving USA, it was $500 billion last year.
given overall
Given
to charitable
overall
organizations.
to all charitable organizations in the United States. That's a lot of money.
$499 billion, that's a lot of money.
Right. But think about what we could do. So a lot of the research that we have around how women give really reflects how communities of color give and other minoritized communities. And so it's really about who is being invited to the table and asking big and not making assumptions.
So it's the Women's Philanthropy Institute.
Yes.
So how we define a woman and the definitions around gender identity are evolving.
Yes.
So what does that mean for WPI?
It means really asking different questions. So much of the data that's available to us to use, it really still really only asks binary questions with regards to gender. And so it's really trying to get more data out there that's more inclusive so that we can start to think through not just how men and women give, but how that evolution on the gender spectrum is affecting how people use their identity. Because your philanthropy is really influenced by all of your different identities. And so really thinking through that and being able to track and record and have data around that. And we're really excited to see where that goes.
This conversation around identity and, building relationships with our donors and our clients, one of the things that I really take away is how important those authentic, trusting relationships are, right? Again, because so many of these identities are hidden.
Hidden identities,
Right? I mean, you don't even know what the identities are by profiling somebody across the room. And so, what we know is that the number one reason why people give, the number one reason, who knows? Who guesses what it is? They're asked. That's a reason. That is a reason. You must ask. You must ask. What else? What are some of the other reasons?
Something they can personally relate to.
Correct. Personal values.
That's right.
If there are nonprofits in this room, right? Not only advisors, but also nonprofits. It is not about your case for support. It is not about your glossy brochure. It is not about taxes. 10,000 times over, advisors. I mean, people give in a tax advantage way during their lifetimes. Estate taxes are different. In their lifetimes, they're going to give smartly.
Yes.
But they're motivated to give by their values. And so finding that intersection between the priorities of the organization and the values of the philanthropist is really the most important thing.
And I would encourage all of you to do it for yourself. Do your own giving plan. You will see where where you give currently may not actually match up with the values and causes that you care most about. So start with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how can everyone in this room stay connected to WPI?
Visit us. So all of our research is available online for free, no paywall. You go to philanthropy.iupui.edu, find WPI. Also, the Women and Girls Index is available and easy to find there. There are things, yes, there is. Thank you for teeing that up. She pulled out, we have a one-pager in your brochures that has all of our social handles. And covers does a broad overview of the research for us of what we talked about today. So stay connected and join our listserv.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Yeah. Yes.
Does anyone have a question for Jeannie, Renee, or Diane, that's why. Yes.
Thank you for the information. I learned naturally net weavers. That's a new phrase. What type of research and workshops are you building around making sure from the grandparents down to the children that that education of giving is in that tapestry and in that same thing?
Yeah, so there are lots of great resources out there. I would do a shout out to my good friend Nick Tedesco at the Center, the National Center for Family Philanthropy. This is a great place for the Community Foundation to play a role in helping provide educational opportunities around family philanthropy and how to engage. You bring out a really great point. This is something that women are very interested in, is this understanding of how to pass down that transmission of generosity. And so we did a study in, was it 2017?
Yes.
2017.
Yes.
Our women
2018.
2018. I always
2017 was the happiness report.
Yes, I always get the life, I was just about to say that. I always get the life satisfaction and the family philanthropy. So what we found was that it is very, very important for children to see and know that their parents are giving and volunteering. It is actually more important for daughters to see this being role modeled versus simply being told to do so. And so, to your point, these, how do we provide as both organizations and nonprofits, as well as organizations like the foundation, the Community Foundation, who can provide these types of learning opportunities? How are we providing opportunities across the spectrum with regards to where you are in the season of life to engage everyone?
And you have to close caption it, right? Just for them to see you walk out the door to a board meeting, right? For a young person, that means nothing. Right. I mean, and to not only describe the activity, right, but more importantly, the why.
Yeah.
Right? So multi-generationally, we have to be super clear about what are our values that we're trying to transmit.
Yeah, this just happened for me the other day. My daughter was like, so they pay you? And I was like, no.
Right.
No, in fact, actually, now I pay them. We actually give a lot of money, and I also chair the. It was like she was just baffled by that. So to put a finer point on that, yes, it is important to actually talk through that and why it's important.
The why.
The why.
And we have one more question.
Thank you for your fabulous presentation. Absolutely fascinating. I have a question. Is there any research on the quantity of organizations that women give to on average? Do they tend to go broadly?
That
Or
is
do they
the
go
broadly.
deeply in a few organizations they're really passionate about?
That goes into broadly. So thank you for noting that. So men tend to give to maybe 1 or 3 causes or organizations in a year. Women can give up to 10. And they can be all different. They can be across the spectrum. And so you never really, so in the fundraising space, we always say we caution organizations who may only be seeing that little slice of that donor, that woman donors giving, and not really understand more fully all of the things that she is really interested in. Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for that.
Excellent. Please help me welcome Jeannie and Dianne for their amazing presentation this morning. Yes. They did say they'll be around if you have any other questions. So good morning. As Danita mentioned, I am Mary Catherine Morales, and I am the Vice President for Philanthropic Services here at the Community Foundation. As we wrap up today, again, let me thank Jeannie and Dianne, Julie, and Danita for helping to drive this conversation today. Their discussion reinforces the idea that the Women Leading for Good committee had initially about the role and the importance for women in philanthropy. Our goal today was to share the research and present actionable insights so that you as advisors are better able to advise not only your female clients, but male clients who may be interested in understanding the future role that women play in philanthropy. Let me also again thank our sponsors, the Women Leading for Good Committee, our PAC, and I'd like the Philanthropic Services team to stand because we are here at the foundation to help you and your clients with their charitable needs. And let me thank everyone in the room today for joining us. The insights that you learned through this research, we are here to partner with you. As always, we offer our hand in partnership as our area's experts, not only on community needs, but the thousands of local nonprofit organizations that are working every day to address those needs immediately. With our Philanthropic Services team, again, we are here to serve and inspire your clients to give where they live. Our goal today was to add a new tool to your toolbox so you can measure the effectiveness of the philanthropy for your clients. And the Community Foundation's door is always open to you and your clients that may want to take a deeper dive. We hope that you can join us in February for our next event. We are so grateful you came this morning, and again, thank you so much. We look forward to working with you.